The lawyer's office smelled like old leather and disappointment. My siblings sat in their designer clothes, barely containing their glee, as Mr. Whitman read through Grandma Cecilia's will. $3 million each for Brandon, $3 million for Ashley, $3 million for Marcus. Properties divided equally among them. Investment portfolios transferred. Even her jewelry collection, the one I'd helped her catalog every summer, split 3 ways. And to my granddaughter, Josephine Marie Caldwell. Mr. Whitman paused, adjusting his glasses. I leave the contents of safety deposit box 447 at First National Bank on Meridian Street. That was it. No money. No properties. Just whatever was in a safety deposit box. Brandon snorted. Figures. Even dead, Grandma knew Joey was the family disappointment. Brandon, our mother chided weakly. But she was already eyeing the inheritance tax paperwork, calculating her children's newfound wealth. Ashley didn't bother hiding her smirk. Maybe it's some savings bonds. You know, enough to pay off those student loans from that art degree. Marcus, the eldest and cruelest, was already on his phone. Probably just her old photos and worthless mementos. Grandma always was sentimental about junk. Mr. Whitman slid a small envelope across the mahogany table. My name was written in Grandma's spidery handwriting. Inside, a single brass key, spotted with rust, attached to a leather tag that read only 447. That's it, Ashley laughed. Joey gets a rusty key to what? A box of costume jewelry. The worthless grandchild gets worthless junk, Marcus said, standing. Seems fitting. He pulled out his phone, showed me the photos he'd posted from Grandma's house that morning. My childhood artwork. Photos of me with Grandma. Letters I'd written her from college. All burning in the backyard fire pit. Cleaned out your old room, he said casually. Made space for my home office. Grandma's house is mine now, after all. I fingered the key, staying silent. Let them talk. Let them gloat. Let them sign every document Mr. Whitman placed before them with eager, greedy fingers. Miss Caldwell, Mr. Whitman said quietly when my siblings were distracted with their windfall. The bank closes at 5. You might want to visit sooner rather than later. Something in his eyes, a flicker of knowledge, maybe amusement. I nodded once. The funeral was that afternoon. A lavish affair my siblings had planned to showcase their newfound wealth. Brandon gave a speech about family legacy while wearing a new Rolex. Ashley dabbed at dry eyes with a handkerchief that cost more than my rent. Marcus talked about preserving Grandma's memory while living in a house where he burned my photos. I sat in the back, the rusty key heavy in my pocket. After the service, relatives I hadn't seen in years suddenly remembered I existed. Joey dear, I heard about the will. Aunt Patricia cooed with false sympathy. So unfair. But then you were never really close to Cecilia, were you? She left me what she wanted me to have, I said simply. A key? Uncle Robert laughed. To what? Her cookie jar. I smiled, said nothing, and left early. Let them gossip. Let them pity poor Joey with her art degree and her rusty key. First National Bank on Meridian Street was an old building, the kind with marble columns and tellers who knew your name. Mrs. Chen at the safety deposit desk smiled when she saw me. Miss Caldwell, we've been expecting you. She took the key, examined it. Box 447. Your grandmother was very specific about the instructions for this box. Instructions? She led me to the vault, past rows of identical boxes. She said you come alone. Said you come after the others had signed everything. Her eyes twinkled. She also said you'd understand why when you opened it. Box 447 was larger than I'd expected. Inside 3 things. 1. A manila envelope, thick with documents. 2. A leather journal, worn and familiar. 3. Another key, modern, silver, attached to a tag with coordinates. I opened the journal first, recognizing it immediately. Grandma's investment diary, the one she kept religiously for 60 years. The one my siblings claimed never existed when they ransacked her study looking for financial records. The final entry was dated a week before her death. My dearest Joey, by now your siblings have gleefully divided what they believe is my entire estate. Let them. The money I left them is real, enough to keep them satisfied and stupid. What they don't know is that the millions they receive represent exactly 15% of my actual wealth. You see, my darling girl, while your brothers and sisters spent their visits asking about my will and checking my bank statements, you spent yours asking about my life. While they cataloged my possessions, you cataloged my stories, And in those stories, I told you everything. Remember the tale about your grandfather's foolish investment in that little Seattle coffee company? The one your father laughed at. Starbucks turned those worthless shares into quite a fortune. Remember when I told you about buying useless land in Austin back in the 70s? The parcels your siblings called Grandma's dirt collection? That dirt is now in the heart of the tech district. The key you're holding opens more than a box, Joey. It opens the door to everything I really owned. Everything I kept hidden from grasping hands and greedy hearts. The documents in this box will lead you to 47 commercial properties across 7 states, investment portfolios worth approximately $280 million. Art collections in climate control storage, yes, including the monet your brother said was fake. The vineyard in France your sister claimed I invented. The publishing rights to your grandfather's patents. And the crown jewel, the 1,800-acre ranch in Montana where I taught you to ride. All held in trust, all in companies they never knew existed, all waiting for the only grandchild who loved me for me, not my money. There's one condition, my dear. You must never share this wealth with your siblings. Not out of cruelty, but because they've already shown you who they are. Brandon burned your memories. Ashley mocked your dreams. Marcus destroyed what you loved. They chose their inheritance. Now choose yours. The silver key leads to the ranch. Your real inheritance isn't money, Joey, it's freedom. The freedom to create, to live, to be exactly who you are without apologizing to anyone. All my love, Grandma Cease. P.S. Mr. Whitman has been my lawyer for 40 years. He's the only one who knows the truth. Trust him. He has instructions to help you claim everything properly and quietly. P.P.S. The rusty key? It's from my first apartment, the one where I started with nothing. I kept it to remember that wealth isn't what you're given. It's what you build. You, my dear, have been building all your life. I sat in that small vault room and cried. Not from grief, I'd done that already, but from the sheer magnitude of her faith in me. While everyone else saw the struggling artist, the unmarried granddaughter, the one who couldn't afford designer clothes or fancy cars, Grandma saw the truth. She saw the girl who spent summers learning her recipes instead of asking for money, who helped organize her photos instead of appraising her jewelry, who asked about her childhood in Poland instead of her stock portfolio. The manila envelope contained deeds, titles, account numbers, contact information for lawyers and property managers, an empire hidden in plain sight. The ranch alone was worth more than what my siblings had inherited combined. I called Mr. Whitman from the bank. Ah, Josephine, he said warmly, I trust you found everything in order. She left me everything. Not everything, he corrected gently. She left them what they expected, money. She left you what they never understood was valuable. The rest. My siblings. Signed ironclad documents accepting their inheritance as complete and final. They can't contest what they don't know exists. I could hear his smile. Your grandmother was a brilliant woman. She structured everything perfectly. Shall we meet tomorrow to begin the transfers? I hung up and looked at the silver key. The coordinates led to Montana, to the ranch where I'd spent my happiest summers, where Grandma taught me to ride, to paint landscapes, to see beauty in wild things, where my siblings had never bothered to visit because it was too far from civilization. That evening, I attended the family dinner at Marcus's house, Grandma's house. They toasted their good fortune with champagne that cost more than my monthly salary. At least Joey can afford to eat tonight. Ashley laughed, gesturing at the elaborate spread. Consider it our charity. Yeah, Brandon added, already drunk. Maybe we should set up a fund for her. The Failed Artist Relief Foundation. I smiled, sipped water, and let them talk. Marcus showed off his plans to gut Grandma's gardens and install a pool. Ashley bragged about quitting her job to become an investor. Brandon had already bought 2 sports cars. What about you, Joey? Mom asked, trying to be kind. Will you be all right? I know Grandma's oversight must hurt. I'll be fine, I said honestly. Grandma left me exactly what she meant to. A rusty key, Marcus laughed again. To what? Did you even check? I did. And it opened what it was supposed to open. Which was? Ashley pressed, sensing something. I stood gathering my things. A door. To what? Brandon demanded. I looked at them, my siblings who've inherited millions but not wisdom, who've gained wealth but not worth. who'd burned my photos while sitting in a house worth less than the dirt they'd mocked. To the future Grandma wanted me to have, I said simply, "Good night." I left them there, confused and irritated but not worried. Why would they worry? They had their millions. They had one. The next morning, I met with Mr. Whitman and began the quiet process of claiming my real inheritance. By the end of the week, I was worth more than my siblings would make in 10 lifetimes. But I didn't buy sports cars or designer clothes. I didn't quit my job at the gallery or move from my small apartment. Not yet. Instead, I flew to Montana, used the silver key to open the ranch house, and found one last gift, a studio Grandma had built just for me, with north-facing windows and views of the mountains. On the easel was a note, "Paint your truth, Joey. It's worth more than their lies." 6 months later, my first solo art exhibition opened in New York. The mysterious buyer who purchased the entire collection for $2.3 million remained anonymous. The check was drawn from a company called CLC Investments. Cecilia Louise Caldwell Investments. Thanks, Grandma. My siblings came to the opening, of course. Drawn by the prestige and the free champagne, calculating how to use my sudden success for their benefit. "I always knew you had talent," Ashley lied smoothly. "We should talk about investing your earnings. Family helps family." Speaking of family, Marcus interjected, "You could use a business manager. I'll give you the family discount. Or you could invest in my new venture," Brandon added. "Ground floor opportunity." I smiled at them over my champagne glass. Real champagne now, not the cheap stuff I used to drink. That's kind of you all. But I have excellent financial advisors. They've been managing my portfolio for years. Portfolio? Ashley blinked. What portfolio? "The one Grandma helped me build," I said truthfully. After all, she had just not the way they assumed. They exchanged glances, calculating, wondering. But what could they do? They'd taken their millions and signed their papers. They'd mocked the rusty key and burned my memories. And now I stood in a gallery wearing a simple black dress and my grandmother's pearl necklace. The real one, not the copy she'd left in the jewelry box they'd divided. The one she'd hidden in the ranch house with a note, "For Joey's first exhibition." "You know," I said quietly, "Grandma once told me that wealth isn't about what you have. It's about what you do with it." "Easy to say when you have nothing," Marcus scoffed. I smiled. Exactly. They left early, frustrated by my calm and their inability to figure out my sudden success. Let them wonder. Let them assume I got lucky with art sales. Let them sleep soundly in their paid-off houses while I owned the land beneath 100 others. That night, I called Mr. Whitman. I want to set up a foundation for struggling artists, full scholarships, living stipends, no strings attached. "Your grandmother would be proud," he said warmly. "What shall we call it?" I thought of the rusty key still on my keychain. The key to a first apartment, to humble beginnings, to remembering where you came from. The Rusty Key Foundation, I decided. For artists who have everything but opportunity. Perfect. And your siblings? They got what they wanted, I said. Money without meaning. Wealth without wisdom. Exactly what they deserve. I hung up and looked at the gallery walls, now empty of my paintings but full of promise. Tomorrow, I'd fly back to Montana. I had a ranch to run, properties to manage, a fortune to shepherd. But tonight I raised a glass to the woman who saw me clearly, who gave my siblings enough rope to hang themselves with greed, who left me a rusty key that opened every door that mattered. Thanks, Grandma, I whispered, for knowing the worthless grandchild was worth everything. Somewhere in her house, Marcus slept soundly, never knowing he lived in the smallest property in Grandma's true portfolio. Ashley dreamed of investments, ignorant that her millions were pocket change compared to the accounts she'd never known existed. Brandon polished his sports cars, oblivious that I owned the dealership where he bought them. And I held a rusty key and smiled. Because Grandma was right, they'd chosen their inheritance, cash they could count and spend and waste. She'd left me something better, everything else. The key to her first apartment, the deed to an empire, the knowledge that being the worthless grandchild had made me the only one worthy of her real trust. $3 million had bought my siblings' silence, their signatures, their willingness to write me off. It was the best investment Grandma ever made.